Welcome to On Texas Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rod Babers, lifetime Longhorn. This episode brought to you by our friends over at Advanced Pain Care. Rod, you did a second watch of the game. That's a little bit deeper dive for you. We're going to learn what you had to say and what you saw. And you've given me kind of the preamble here to go down. And you want to start with Sark's conservative game plan. What'd you see there, bud?
Yeah, I thought ultimately, even though, some of the elements of Sark offense, I still think you saw some of those elements, the pre-snap motion. People said that the rates of pre-snap motion were low. Actually, there was upwards of close to 70% in the first half. Overall, it ended up being close to like 58%, a little under 60%, which is still low for Sark in those big games. I remember Michigan, he was at 75% pre-snap motion rate. Bama, one of those games, he was at 73%. But it's not just the pre-snap motion. It's a combination of the pre-snap motion with other elements like targets to motion. You only had two of those, one in the first half, one in the second half, and one was that Injury's 30-yard reception, right? And the other one was that Ryan Wingo deep shot. He had him on a cheat motion, and then he took a deep shot with him. But you need more of those. How important are targets to motion in big games? In the two Georgia games last year, you had a combined 20 targets to motion from Sark. In that game, in the two Bama games, you had combined 20 targets to motion. So when he's really deep in his bag, he combines motion, he weaponizes it with other elements, and also misdirection. Not a lot of misdirection.
One in around.
Yeah, just not a lot. He usually, whether it be pulling linemen or whether it be, having multiple elements of motion. I called it multi-motion. You only had 3 plays, I believe, of multi-motion, where you have more than one player in motion or a player moving multiple times, which is usually an element of misdirection in Sark's offense. When you move in the pocket, we saw that on the first play, but didn't really see it much after that. So I thought you were missing some of those elements, the combination of, yes, the motion, but also the targets to motion, the misdirection, the multi-motion. That's what makes Sark's offense unique and dangerous. Also, I'll throw out the empty. We saw one empty set, I believe, in the first half, and I believe it was actually on a penalty. And then the second half, you saw it a little bit more. It was not that successful, but it was definitely part of what Sark wanted them to present problems to them with empty formation, with a quarterback that could run. So he ran a little bit in the second half. I think it's something that would juice the offense, and you should run in the first half. But if you go look at some of the other big games, the Bama game, both Bama games, the Michigan game, when you look at the opening script for Sark in those first 20 to 40 plays, whatever you're talking about there, I mean, empty formation was upwards of close to 30% of your passing. Your pass snaps in those games on the script. But in this game, you saw very little of it early on in the game. Also, fewer RPOs, I thought, overall, which are easy completions, opportunities for easy completions is what Sark calls. He calls them opportunity throws. I didn't see many RPOs early on, and maybe that's because he doesn't believe that's a strength of Arch in terms of completing those RPOs with real off-platform throws, from a lot of different arm angles. But I think that's another element that you could add, another easy completion. The screen game. Oh man, you didn't see your first screen to the 17th play of the game. Sark in the two Bama games, you saw a screen. The Bama game, first play in one Bama game, first 2 plays in the other Bama game. In the Michigan game, third play of the game was a screen play, and yet it took Sark like deep into like the first half to get to his. I think it was Ryan Wingo, I believe, was that first wide receiver screen. No, that's off for Sark. I mean, that's, to me, when he is really, really being innovative and creative, those are quintessential elements that were missing early on for Sark, and we start to see it later on when he made some adjustments.
In your study, in the second watch for you, Rod, did you find tendencies that worked and didn't work, in your opinion?
Oh, yeah, I found some stuff. This is great for Arch, because I know it's a lot of doom and gloom with Arch right now. But first of all, can we talk about the deep ball with Arch? We thought it was going to be good. It was good. His deep ball, I mean, he was, 3 of 6 on passes, 20-plus yards or more down the field on deep shots. That's pretty damn good against Ohio State. And 90 yards, 1 touchdown, had that 1 interception, though, which was just a bad late throw by him, and a little bit off and inaccurate. He didn't anticipate that throw very well. But on most of the deep shots, he was really good. And I'll throw this out there. All 3, if you go look at his deepest shots, like his top three, longest plays via the pass. 32-yarder to Livingstone, the 30-yarder to Jack Hendries, 28-yarder to Ryan Wingo. That was a nod route. They were all targets to bunch. Targets to bunch means you are targeting a group of receivers who are closely clustered together, tight twins, triangle twins bunch. And Jack Hendries actually motioned to a tight twins. Livingstone was in a triangle bunch. I believe he was at the point, at the tip of it. And then that one to Ryan Wingo was also, I believe, a motion to a very tight, closely clustered tight twins formation. He's like, what does that mean? Well, what it means is, and you guys were complaining about this, easier separation for receivers, because DBs, what would they automatically do when receivers are closely clustered together? They back up.
You have to, yeah.
So I don't get picked, right? So we got to play levels. So I have to respect that. So I have to back up. That's going to clean up the picture for the quarterback. So we're going to freer release for the wide receivers, and it should put the DBs into a bit of a bind, right? Conflict where they're like, all right, if I'm going to take this guy at this depth, you take this guy at this depth, and you take the inside route, I'll take the outside route. It leaves it open for miscommunication because they have to be able to communicate and be able to defend those bunches correctly. And so that's why I think targets to bunch helps you out, because the receivers, which had trouble creating separation, naturally, they got it organically when you create that bunch. And that's why I think you should have more targets to bunch formation for Arch, more targets to motion. All right, you were 1 of 2 for 30 yards on that. I think you should have more targets to motion. I think that would help him as well. And straight drop back. His 4 longest completions, so the ones I mentioned, then add that 15-yard comeback route to Livingstone. Remember that one? That was a nice
on the sideline. Yeah,
on the sideline. They were all straight drop back. No play action, no play fake, straight drop back. You might need to incorporate straight drop back with the quick game. And that maybe it's an extension of the run, but maybe that's how you get him in the groove. He likes straight drop back. I mean, it looked pretty good. I mean, that's his best throws of the day was straight drop back. I'm just going back, no play action with it. They were under center a little bit more and pistol and all that, but that's, I think, something that also Sark needs to pay attention to in terms of how to get your quarterback in the groove. You need to get to some of those easy completions, the screens, the RPOs, but what about quick game from straight drop back? Just straight up hitches and slants, old school, quick game, quick out. He's got the arm for it. You can roll. Maybe you may just be able to roll him out to it to make it easier for him to get him in the groove. And Sark even said, hey, I got to run him more to get this young man in the groove. I think that's something to consider.
Let me ask you this, Rod. We also heard Arch having issues. You saw some of the flat-footed throws, some bad arm angles, some rushed throws, right? I go back to the one to Ryan Wingo on the 3rd down on the final drive where he kind of just felt like he rushed. He didn't. Did you notice anything in particular where was it his feet? What was it about Arch that you felt looked just a little off? Because he did. I mean, he missed some throws, like categorically missed throws.
I feel like at times it's a weird sidearm with the motion. I don't know what that. Like I said, I'm not a quarterback guru or anything. But that was weird a couple of times, not setting the feet. And at times he had time to step up and had room to step up, and yet would not set his feet on throws where guys were open. He was inaccurate, I thought, because he wouldn't follow through with those throws. So I do think just some mechanical issues and some just fundamentals kind of, I would just say, failing him in that big game. Maybe it was nerves, whatever it was. But I think some of those missed throws, the inaccuracy on intermediate. I mean, he was 1 of 5 guys on intermediate throws. I believe the only intermediate throw that he hit was the Parker Livingstone comeback route.
Yeah.
Intermediate throws, I mean, unless you just got an absolute cannon, a lot of that is being able to step up in the pocket. You can make those short, quick throws. You can just throw those out there. But you got to be able to set your feet, and you got to be able to step into some of those throws when you are throwing in, anywhere from 5 to 20 yards, especially if it's in the middle of the field. Those things can't float on you. They float on you. That could be bad for business. So I think for Arch, man, he's got to get back to some of the basics. I don't know where the bad habits came from, but he definitely displayed some bad habits in that game. It could have just been nerves. It happens. I've displayed some bad habits myself in some big games before. And so that's what I'll say is maybe it's just nerves. There's no way that was his operation all throughout training camp and with Sark and AJ Milwee. There's no way that would have been acceptable by their standards. So I think ultimately came down to nerves, and he forgot a lot of the fundamentals of him being able to operate at the quarterback position at a high level.
I tell you what, let's listen now to our sponsor, who has two pretty good quarterbacks here talking for him, and then we'll get over to the defensive game plan, Rod, as well as what you saw or who you believe is a burgeoning star for the Longhorns.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Those guys needed help their first times.
That's true.
Colts' first big start was a 24-7 loss to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So these things happen. All right, let's go to the defense because you wanted to talk a couple of things here. Defensive game plan for Pete Kwiatkowski. What did you think of it? Obviously, it seemed to work, giving up only 203 yards. PK, you can say what you want, but that side of the ball has performed exceptionally well the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, we were worried about the nickel position. We were worried about interior D-line a little bit, where they're going to be able to stand up, obviously to Ohio State in the run game and with the going against the best wide receiving core in college football. And I don't know about Longhorn fans, but rewatching the film, I was pleasantly surprised and more than optimistic about where the Longhorns are starting right now at both of those spots. Ohio State wasn't able to run the football with any consistency. I did say before the game they were going to line up in a lot of 12 personnel because it just simplifies things, adds another hat in the run game, adds another gap in the run game for you, and pass protection neutralizes the edges for Texas a little bit, or at least gives you some advantage there, or at least gives you some support in pass protection against the deep edge room for Texas. And they did. And actually, you'll look at it, their second, third, fourth, and fifth longest completions of the day came in 12 personnel. The big one that they got to Cardinal Tate down the sideline, that was in 11 personnel. So they were able to simplify it because either Texas would respond by being in 40 personnel with 4 DBs out there, or Texas would respond by, kind of either keeping a shell coverage over the top and making sure that they didn't give up any deep completions. And so I don't think they only had maybe 2 completions. There were deep completions anyway. I get deep 20 yards or more down the field. So Texas was really stingy in pass defense. Also, they changed it up from last year. Last year, they were about 60% too high shell coverages to try to keep a top on the defense. They changed it up. They were actually more single high coverage versus Ohio State this year. Emphasis on stopping the run. So that's more aligned with what Texas' identity was on defense last year. They were about 55% single high coverage rate last season. And I think that's going to be the case again this year, playing a little bit more man coverage. In this game, they were true to their identity. They didn't really let the Ohio State passing attack, even though obviously they did keep some too high shell. Actually, probably more than half of their too high shell coverage snaps, they were playing with basically inverted 3 high.
So Texas did use the 3 high safety look, in your opinion.
Good point, Bobby. I know you would bring that up. They might go 3 high. They did use it quite a bit in this game versus Ohio. They used it last year as well versus Ohio State in the playoffs too. So they seem to like it when they're going to put 2 high shells. They like that inverted defender to be able to defend the intermediate routes because that's where you're susceptible All right, in the passing game, when you got two deep shells, linebackers usually don't drop as deep as they should. They always have drop issues in zone coverages. So you want that inverted defender to come down and be able to roam that middle of the field, make it really tough for the quarterback to throw those deep in cutting routes.
Rod, you also mentioned a player. You wanted me to mention a player you think is going to be a star at Texas, and he is playing the star position, and that is young Grayson Littleton out of Tampa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with everybody, every other Longhorn fan who watched that game. I'm sure they have the same opinion that this young man is special, especially after all the reports we heard in training camp. I talked to Coach Akita and asked him, "Hey, is it the real deal? Is this happening? A true freshman potentially getting snaps, starting snaps at nickel against Ohio State?" And he's like, "Yeah, young man's the real deal." And I also told you guys that as soon as they see him out there, they're going to go after him. As soon as they can verify it upstairs out there, they will test him. I said they need to have a plan. Well, the plan was let Grayson Littleton showcase his talent. Simply that was the plan. He went up against Jeremiah Smith that one snap on that kind of a drag route across the field. And it was, I mean, considering, guys, going back and watching it, he is out of position. Now, you can tell he's a smart player because he's using his leverage, because he's got inside help. Jelani McDonald was supposed to be inside help. Jelani McDonald slips or something. If you go watch it, he like falls down. I don't know what happened. He like fell down. So you can almost see that the outside leverage that Grayson Littleton has at the time, that he kind of panics like, oh man, I thought I had help, and now this guy, he can get away from me. Go watch the makeup speed to be able to catch Jeremiah Smith on that crossing route. That was, to me, was on display. That's what I saw in that snap. And then the next snap, shout out to Bobby, because you said he does defend the slot fade really well. That was one of the things that kind of separated him from the other guys who were competing at that nickel star spot for Texas in training camp. And they tested him, because that's arguably the toughest route to defend, really in the secondary. In that slot, that fade, because you got to defend a two-way go. And if they throw it over that outside shoulder, there's so much space for them to work with in between the sideline and in that slot wherever they're lined up. And he played it amazingly. He was patient. He had outside leverage. That helped him get in really good position to be on the hip of the receiver, and then was able to play the hands. He had a plan. The plan was, he was like, no, I'm going to play the hands. He didn't panic because he was a little out of phase. He just played the hands simply and was able to shoot right through the hands of the receiver as soon as they threw it. Now, there was a penalty on that play, so it didn't technically, I guess, count. Yeah. That young man, those two snaps to me showed me all I need to see from him versus the best wide receiving room in college football. He's going to be a star. We have nothing to worry about when it comes to the nickel position this time.
So a lot of fans are happy with the Texas defensive game plan and the defense overall. Okay. Let me ask you this. What did this defensive performance not prove to you? Like, we don't need to overreact to Arch having a tough day. Simultaneously, we don't need to overreact to the defense having a good day, right? So what did you – I mean, one of the things for me, Rod, I'll give you an example. Texas only faced 20 passes.
Yeah, not a lot.
I mean, not a bunch. When they play their next big opponent, which will be Florida, you're going to see more than 20 passes, bud. Mm-hmm. Is that what they may or may not have seen? I mean, what was it that Texas didn't show in their defense that you think they're going to need to throughout the year?
They're going to need to make more plays. More splash plays, more havoc plays. I mean, that's what they were great at last year. They were top 5 in the country in takeaways. They were, one of the top teams in terms of pressures, top 5 in sacks, tackles for loss. They were top 10. That's what they need. They didn't get enough of those. Now, it is Ohio State on the road, but you only had 1 tackle for loss, I believe, 1 sack. You got
no sacks, I don't think.
No sacks, sorry. But 1 tackle for loss, no sacks. And you got to force more havoc plays and force more negative plays. That's the next step for them. It'll come because they're a really talented group. But the way to do that is you got to, force teams into predictable passing situations, and you got to create pressure. In Texas, didn't get enough pressure on Sang. In those few passing snaps you're talking about, they didn't get enough pressure on him. And that's something they got to do more of too. So there's room for growth. This defense looks great in my opinion, but there's still room for this group to get a whole lot better, which I think they will.
Still got to prove it is my point. Both sides of the ball, even though that they had a good performance out of the gate on defense, struggled on offense, obviously. All right, Rod, thanks for doing the second watch. We'll have you again tonight. We're going to be on the live stream, me, you, and Jerry talking a little football, taking questions from folks. For Rod Babers, as well as our producer, Matt Hutchinson, I'm Bobby Burton. Thanks also to our friends over at Advanced Pain Care. Next day and same day appointments available. Rod, you have a good one. Hug 'em.
Hug 'em.